Am I the a-hole for not supporting my ex-wife while she is going through a divorce? My 44 male ex-wife, 44 female, recently came to me with some heavy news. She's going through a nasty divorce. According to her, her husband has been cheating on her for quite some time, and he just told her he was moving out. She's devastated. What makes this whole situation complicated for me is how eerily similar it is to what she did to me 10 years ago. Back then, she blindsided me, left me for someone else, justified it to anyone who would listen, and dragged my name through the mud in the process. Now she's reaching out to me because, in her words, you know how it feels and you made it through. On some level, she's right. I do know how it feels. But here's the thing. Had she not spent the last decade trashing me to everyone, including our kids, and making nasty little comments about me even up until just a few weeks ago, I might feel more inclined to offer her some support. As it stands, I honestly don't care that she's hurting. But a tiny part of me, the part that wants to set a good example for our kids, feels like I should show her a little bit of kindness. When I saw her, she looked awful, completely worn down. It's obvious she's going through it emotionally. But back when we divorced, I didn't have anyone to turn to. I had to deal with everything alone while she justified her actions by telling everyone she was escaping the worst mistake she ever made. Those words haunted me for years. I know this might just be the shock phase for her, and she's probably at rock bottom emotionally. I don't think she would ever hurt herself, but she seems very lost right now. The problem is, I've spent 2 weeks reminding her that I don't want to be her emotional support. I've asked her repeatedly not to contact me unless it directly concerns our kids, which is how we've kept things since the divorce. Minimal contact, strictly about parenting. I can't lie, part of me feels a little vindicated seeing her go through what she once put me through. I'm not celebrating her pain, but I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a small sense of, now you know how it feels. Still, there's this nagging thought that maybe I should show compassion for the sake of our kids, to show them how to handle difficult people with dignity? Am I the a-hole for keeping my distance and refusing to offer my ex-wife emotional support while she's going through what she once put me through? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You don't owe her anything. The only reason I could think of to intervene is if you thought your kids were in danger or being neglected, then yeah, of course, step in. But even then, your responsibility is to your kids, not her. For the kids, seeing him enable her behavior after how she treated him for a decade might actually be a bad example. They need to see that actions have consequences and that healthy boundaries exist, not that poor behavior gets bailed out. Not the a-hole. That is some unmitigated gall to ask the person she dragged through the mud to emotionally support her when the boomerang of consequences hit its mark. Not just boomerang of consequences, that's karma at its finest. OP is a better person than me. I would have told her, what goes around comes around. Go cry to someone who actually cares. I can only imagine how difficult that situation is. You've been through a lot, and it's understandable that you feel conflicted. It's perfectly okay to prioritize your own emotional well-being and set boundaries, especially when someone has hurt you in the past. You're not responsible for her feelings, and it sounds like you're doing a great job of protecting yourself and your family. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to be a man by providing 100% financially when my wife still wants me to split all the housework and parenting with her? My 36 male wife, 34 female, recently announced that she wants to become a full-time stay-at-home mom. And not because we have babies or toddlers who need round-the-clock care. Our daughter is 12, very independent, and doesn't really need constant supervision. My wife's reasoning is that she wants to live by traditional values. The problem is, she also expects me to be the sole provider and step up as a man. I already work over 60 hours a week to cover all of our expenses, and I'm exhausted most days when I get home. But even though she now wants to stay home, she still expects me to split cooking, cleaning, school runs, and parenting 50-50. When I say I'm tired and ask why she can't take on more of the housework if she's home all day, she accuses me of being sexist and says real men don't treat their wives like maids. I've tried to explain that I don't mind helping, but if I'm the only one working, it doesn't make sense for me to do half of everything at home on top of being the sole breadwinner. I told her I'd still help out where I could, but I can't be expected to work 10 plus hours a day and then do half the chores and school runs. Her response? That if I really loved my family, I'd find the energy to do both. To make matters worse, she's been telling her friends that I'm lazy and just want a servant, which couldn't be further from the truth. I feel like I'm the one being taken advantage of here. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that if one partner is home full-time and the other is working 60-hour weeks, the person at home should handle most of the household responsibilities. Eventually, I told her that if she really wants a perfect 50-50 split of domestic duties, then she needs to get a job and contribute financially so things are actually balanced. That did not go over well. She says I'm being controlling and unsupportive. I'm starting to feel resentful because it feels like she wants the benefits of being a stay-at-home spouse without taking on the work that usually comes with that role. I don't know if I'm being unfair for expecting her to handle more of the home responsibilities if I'm the one providing 100% of the income. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife she needs to either do more around the house if she's going to stay home or get a job and contribute financially? As a woman, you're not the a-hole. Part of the traditional wife role that your spouse claims to want is to create a soft landing pad for the person who is fully, financially supporting the family. Yes, as the dad, you still need to be there for your wife and kids in other ways, and yes, you should help at home because you live there. But 50-50? Nope. Sorry, your wife is selfish. Yeah, I'm a stay-at-home dad. My wife makes enough money to fully support our family. One of my top priorities in running our household is making sure that when she's home, it's a place where she can recover from the stress of her job. I need help sometimes, like when we're deep cleaning before a party, or I'm remodeling something and she has to keep the kids away from the power tools. But in general, the goal is for her to be relaxed and happy at home. Your wife is tripping. She can't be serious. That scenario only applies if she's working. That's what I tried to explain to her. I told her, okay, I'll do 50-50 and cut my hours to 40 a week if you get a 40-a-week job too. Not the a-hole. I say this as I'm going through a similar situation. She wants the traditional or religious roles and responsibilities when it's in her favor. The husband is 100% financially taking care of everything. The husband can't touch her money. She makes more than I do and is in a 9-to-5 job with strict hours. The husband is providing all the luxuries. But when it comes to the expectations on her from the same sources, she doesn't do any cooking. She's too tired to do the cleaning. She doesn't want to allow me to look after my parents. And she doesn't respect my wishes or decisions for the household. Thankfully for me, there are no kids and it's only been a few years. But after repeated attempts for me to reconcile, it's divorce. Yeah, when my wife was working, she didn't want me to touch any of her money either. She didn't even want it going to bills. It was just for her personal spending or whatever she decided. Glad you got out. It's looking that way for me too. Not the a-hole. I have a similar story. Me and my ex-husband agreed to relocate because I received a promotion. Long story short, he decided unilaterally that he was a house husband and that I still had to do 50% of the work around the house in addition to the 60+ hours I was working, plus business travel and all the rest. He justified this by saying, "Don't all you gals want equality?" I never, ever agreed to this, which is why he's now an ex. Next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to leave my husband after my miscarriage? I, 34 female, have been married to my husband, 43 male, for 3 years, together for 5. His 3 kids, ages 18 to 21, live with us too. We've been struggling with infertility pretty much since we got married. Last year was really rough because I got laid off from my tech job, and a couple of weeks later, he had a stroke. During his stroke, I took on everything because he literally couldn't, and that was fine. We took a major financial hit, depleted our savings, and racked up quite a bit of debt. Fast forward to June of this year. We'd started going to a fertility clinic. I was working full-time. My husband was doing much better and had made about a 90% recovery, but I was still doing literally everything for the house. Cleaning, finances, letting the kids use my car for school and work, cooking, etc. Anytime I asked for help, it was either dismissed or turned into an argument where he'd shut me out, give me the silent treatment, and then have the audacity to expect sex later that night with no apology or accountability. I finally got pregnant in late May but lost it 6 weeks later. That experience broke me. I didn't get out of bed for a week. I was in pain, I wasn't feeding myself, and I was miserable. During the roughly 4 weeks I was out of work and depressed, he didn't do a single thing around the house, let the dishes and laundry pile up, and basically carried on as if life was fine. One night in particular, he asked if I was okay, and I told him no, that I was in pain and hadn't eaten, and he just got on his phone. He didn't even offer to get me food. To make it worse, when I finally got up and said I was making myself something, he asked me to make something for him too, knowing I was still bleeding and in pain. It took me a few months to finally wake up from the depression of losing my baby and really see how emotionally neglectful he'd been this whole year. Not to mention the financial abuse, withholding the fact that he was $15,000 behind on taxes, lying about having money for our vacation, only to have nothing, and making me max out my credit cards to cover it. Now we're filing for bankruptcy on top of everything. I decided to have a serious conversation with him and gave an ultimatum about marriage counseling. He completely dismissed everything I said, told me I was overreacting, said the financial stuff wasn't a big deal, and refused counseling. That was the soft version, but after that conversation, I seriously considered packing up and leaving. After nearly 2 weeks of silent treatment, hurtful comments and defensiveness, he finally caved, apologized, and agreed to counseling, though he said he wouldn't like it. I thought his apology was genuine, but as soon as I kissed him and said I felt better, he immediately asked for sex. Now I feel like he's only motivated by sex, not by caring about how much he's hurt and neglected me. Even though he's agreed to counseling, I feel like I don't even want to work on this relationship anymore. But I also feel guilty because he's a good person in some ways. He goes to work every day, doesn't cheat, etc. But he's the definition of emotionally unavailable and neglectful. I've recently realized he's a dismissive avoidant, for those who know about attachment theory. So, am I the a-hole for wanting to give up without trying to work on the relationship more? Now for the comments. He's a good person because he doesn't cheat? The bar is in hell. The bar is in Satan's basement, and this guy brought a shovel. Leave as soon as possible, hun. This is red flag after red flag. If he'd acted this way before you got married, you wouldn't have married him. He goes to work every day and doesn't cheat is the bare minimum in a relationship, and you're doing the most. This is a gift in disguise. You could have actually had a kid with this guy, chaining you to him forever. I think your body was protecting you. Listen to it. See, you're 100% right. There's no way I would have married him if he'd acted like this while dating. And also I tell myself if this was a friend, I'd be screaming for her to leave. One piece that keeps holding me back is that I feel like he changed after his stroke, so maybe he just needs therapy and to work on himself. Or maybe he's always been this way, and he just dropped the facade when he was no longer healthy enough to keep it up. He used to always say, "One day you're going to get tired of me and leave." And I'd just laugh it off, but maybe he was low-key warning me this whole time. And yes, I've had thoughts lately that maybe my body was protecting me, but then I spiral into self-guilt around that. I've started therapy to try and work on that piece more. Personality changes after brain injury is a real thing. Sounds like you lost the guy you fell in love with. In my opinion, you really need to look out for your own well-being at this point and let his adult children take over. Let him implode all on his own. His brain will likely not get better, unfortunately. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to combine bank accounts with my partner, even though we live together? I'm 28 female and my boyfriend is 29 male. We've been living together for a little over a year now. Things are honestly good for the most part. We split rent and bills down the middle, we take turns buying groceries, and we each cover our own personal stuff. No kids, no major joint purchases yet. A couple weeks ago, he brought up the idea of us fully combining bank accounts. His reasoning is that since we live together and we're basically a family now, it would make more sense to have all the money in one place. I told him I'm fine with opening a joint account just for bills and shared expenses, and we could both put in equal amounts every month. But I really don't want to merge everything. I like having control over my own money, and I've been saving aggressively for years. Here's the thing. He's not terrible with money, but he does have around $5,000 in credit card debt, and he tends to spend a lot on impulse buys, like electronics, random Amazon stuff, and eating out. I'm the opposite. I'm more frugal and I don't want my savings mixed in and slowly chipped away because of his habits. When I told him this, he got visibly upset and said it feels like I don't trust him. He also said that if I really see us long term, why would I keep my money separate? And that it's like I'm preparing to leave. I tried explaining that it's not about planning for a breakup. It's about being responsible and protecting both of us. I reminded him I was willing to do a joint account for household stuff, but he said that feels cold and transactional. Since then, he's been kind of distant, and I can tell he's hurt. My sister thinks I'm being smart and that joint accounts are risky when you're not married. My mom, on the other hand, said she and my dad combined accounts early on and it worked fine, so she doesn't see why I wouldn't. Now I'm second-guessing myself. Am I being too cautious? Or am I right to want to keep finances separate until there's a stronger commitment like marriage? Not the a-hole. You're being smart. Until you're married, your finances should stay separate. A joint account for bills is fair, and honestly the healthiest way to do it. Combining everything when you're not legally tied can get very messy if things go south. Yeah, this is kind of my worry. I've seen friends break up, and it gets ugly when money is fully mixed. I don't want us to ever have to deal with that. You're definitely being smart regarding money. I would absolutely not combine accounts, but what's really standing out to me is that he's punishing you for saying no. He tried to emotionally twist you into agreeing with him, you stood firm, and now he's sulking at you. Think again about your life with him. Not the a-hole. You are not even married. I've been with my wife for 18 years, and we don't share bank accounts. We have a shared one for expenses and savings, but we also have our own. Wow, 18 years. That actually makes me feel way better about my choice. Not the a-hole. He's being very manipulative and showing you how he doesn't respect your opinion. His habits will not change, and it would be wise to look at how he handles conflict and his spending behavior. If you get married, even with separate accounts, you agreed to be responsible for his habits. Finances is the number 2 reason for divorce after cheating. My ex-husband had the same habits when it came to not respecting my opinion and spending. I found secret credit cards multiple times before we split. We split paying his debt just as much as we split paying for the home that I purchased before we married, because 50% of all the equity after marriage was his. Yeah, this is why I'm standing firm on it. I do love him, but love doesn't erase debt or change spending habits overnight. If he can't respect me on something this important, it makes me wonder how he'd handle my opinions on even bigger things down the line.